What is up, everybody? Keith Jameson, go by Gator Guy 231 across the DFS industry. And it's Friday morning. It's been a hell of a morning already. Decided to run out of gas on the way to take the kid to school. Did not realize how that is like one of the stone worst things you can do, which like obvious reasons, right? Obvious reasons, like it sucks, but it's like the waiting game for the wife to show up at the gas can. It's the 4-year-old in the back seat going, "Dad, why did you run out of gas?" Jesus. Then you finally get him to school, and immediately he tells like the first, like, every single person he sees, "Dad ran out of gas. Dad ran out of gas." Thanks, kiddo. So anyhow, you guys are here for gas stories or tales from parenthood. Just gonna talk about the 4-game EPL slate. Quick reminder: like, subscribe, comment. No matter whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on any of the pod feeds, do appreciate you listening. And then just, quick plug for the chat. We cover every slate at this point, I think, with the exception of MX, which, on Saturday, no, there's no MLS. I'm assuming that we'll be covering Liga MX. Actually, Liga MX is about to be in the playoffs. So anyhow, we cover almost everything. So it's a great place to be, learn soccer, ask questions, all that good stuff. All right, let's jump into it. So it's a Man City slate. Man City at home, minus 770 for Southampton. I've talked about this, don't even know if the word's ad nauseum, but, Erling Haaland, obviously being with City, makes the whole City roulette thing, I think, just a ton easier. Because goal notifications happen, whether there's a goal or assist, you expect Haaland to be part of it. And then it's KDB. So, there's just 2 free scores. KDB rested midweek. Haaland left after the first half for rest too, after scoring 2 goals. So, those 2s are just really easy. You just plug them in. At this point, I don't know at what salary Haaland's at that he wouldn't be a plug-and play, or what's the matchup. Maybe like Chelsea away, Liverpool away. If he's like 12K, you're not playing him. But it's really hard to picture any other matchup that you're not playing him. Certainly here's Southampton at home. It's just a plug and play. I think at this point, the decisions just become is how much are you going to try to do. Foden got jumped up to 10,000 after the huge game this weekend, so I think he's going to be really hard to fit in, especially with KDB in. It's not like you can assert like a ton of corners for him. Grealish is cheap, 6,500, looked really good midweek. Anybody would look really good midweek. God, I'm already blinking on the team's name that they played, but they're just not very good. And then I think it's the fullbacks, Cancelo, and with all the injuries, Sergio Gomez is going to keep playing, and Sergio Gomez is actually more of a normal DFS type of player than João Cancelo. João Cancelo, kind of like assumes his midfield role in the Pep system, and he's fantastic. But he also doesn't have like 15 DK games in his pocket without like a goal or assist. He's not going to get like 10, 15 crosses. Now I say that he's going to do it. But Sergio Gomez, like we saw this back in the Anderlecht days. Sorry, I had the gas can still in here, so I had this to make it. All right, there we go. So Sergio Gomez, a lot more of a traditional DFS player, a lot more crossing, getting in the box, staying wide for crosses and shots. So you could argue to play him, but I think the majority are just going to like plug Cancelo in. But that'll actually be a big decision. Let's say that's a good place to differentiate, especially in GPP. I expect Gomez to be at least half of the ownership of Cancelo. I think that's how some people will go. And then a lot of people will play Ederson because, Blenderhead had popularized that concept, which is a good concept a while back, which was, rather than trying to risk what City piece is going to score, just take the goal from Ederson, assuming he gets a clean sheet and win, which makes a lot of sense, has its own fallacies within it too, just in terms of like not really processed, just because City just is conceding more than we're used to City conceding in the past. But Southampton's attack is not something to be like super concerned with. Like, are we going to be concerned with Joe Aribo, Adam Armstrong, these type of guys versus City? I would lean towards no. I'm not that concerned about those. So, Ederson, I would say, is probably the top keeper on the slate. All else being removed. So, I think I cover City. Nobody in Southampton. It's not a word-prowse spot. Like, this is the opposite of a James Ward-Prowse spot. Wolves going to Chelsea. Wolves sacked the manager last weekend. Chelsea minus 250 under Graham Potter. 1-3-0 versus Milan. Looked a lot better. They're not necessarily like producing great DFS scores though. Reece James scored a goal and assisted and did not take corners. So you got like the the good and the bad with Reece James there, right? It's like, okay, great, you're still attacking and doing those type of things, which is fantastic. But you know, we were playing you for the 8 to 10 crosses and the set pieces. And if you're not going to have that, it makes it a lot harder. Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount split those sets. Ben Chilwell had a whopping 3 crosses playing wing back on those sets. And it's actually funny, if you go back to Brighton, Cucurella would play that left wingback spot a lot. He wouldn't cross too much. He would have his games, don't get me wrong. There are those games, but he wasn't like a prolific crosser. A lot of times at that right wingback spot, Lamptey or Solly March were the crossers. So I think that's worth noting. But James, Chilwell, both fine. Mount, fine. Mount just doesn't get goals or assists anymore. But he's 7,400. I think he could be really intriguing. I don't think he'll be very, very owned here. And certainly at the price and given the odds, it makes sense. Aubameyang got to 7,000. I think he's okay. You know, if Kai starts with him, Kai at 5,000 or Abba at 7,000, I'm playing Kai. I think Kai would be a really popular punt if he starts, but it probably should be Sterling. I don't know what they're going to do with Kai anymore. Sell him in January. Finance. Who was it? And Kunku they want to bring in, so finance that with the sale of Kai. Nobody else from Chelsea really worth noting. I think I covered them all. Cucurella's back in. Just be careful with Cucurella. Like, Cucurella can play that back 3, or Potter's gone to back 4, which in either case, you know, it's a little bit scarier to play him. All right, Brentford going to Newcastle. I think Trippier is a really solid play at like 6,200. I think he's still a little bit softly priced, especially if you don't see Target in. If you don't see Target, then Trippier takes both sides. And at that point, he's just like a stone lock type of play, I think. I just think it's fairly easy to get to him. Just depending on what you do with City, right? If you sack the crap out of City, if you like try to force Foden, or let's say like Bilva or something like that, you're not going to be able to do it. But if you kind of just go Holland, KDB, and then like a fullback or not even a fullback, then you can fit more. So Trippier would be the option. I think that one of my favorite punt forward options is from this game. I think Joe Ellington is really interesting. He's playing this hybrid like 8-10 role where he just roams a lot, gets some fouls drawn, gets some tackles, gets some shots. And outside the Liverpool game, it was like 7, 9, and 10 floor points, which is really good. You know, I hate the saying, this happens a lot in so rare. It's like, man, he'd be so good if he just got goals or assists. And just the reality is sometimes guys just don't get goals or assists. I do think Joe Ellington has goals and assists in him. I don't know if it'll be this weekend, but you know, if you do actually get one of those on top of a pretty solid floor, you're in really good shape there. You know, Callum Wilson or Isaac, whoever's starting at the 9, probably better for GPP. Almiron's been okay. Bruno Guimaraes, it's like an awesome Sorare player. A little bit less for the DFS side. I think he's all the hype that he got from like the crazy start to his career at Newcastle, and like getting a little bit more of goal and assist involvement than he probably quote unquote should. Probably has his price still a little elevated. On the Brentford side, I really don't like targeting teams versus Newcastle at St. James. I just think it's a really, really bad spot. And Bournemouth and Jensen would be the only 2 I would go there. Tony for GPP if you think the goals are there, but you know, for cash and optimal, which we're talking about here, that wouldn't fit the bill. And Mbeumo, though, I guess is fine. I think I prefer Joe Ellington to him, though. But those are your sets. Final game, Leicester going to Bournemouth. Bournemouth, Tavernier is actually proving to be one of the better floors in all of EPL DFS. Like, Bournemouth is bad, and it's had bad matchups, and the guy still produces. There's actually a really good spot for Bournemouth, even though they're plus 250 at home. Leicester's defense has been atrocious. Leicester looked a lot better last weekend, but I'm not going to let one weekend change kind of what's been now about, like, the end of last season and start of this season showing just not a great team. So, you know, I really like Tavernier. I think it was like 65 or 600. I think he gives you close to a double-digit floor Then obviously, if there's a goal or assist involvement, Yahtzee, we're in great shape. Maddison, I would love to play. He's really expensive. He's more than KDB. At that point, I would almost just want to use Foden to fill my forward spot with, than to spend up for Maddison. I think if the lineups are going to really going to decide the slate in a lot of ways. But the price on Maddison is just really, really high. So just know that going in. But it's a great spot for Maddison. Bournemouth's one of the worst teams in the league. Maddison's taking monopoly set pieces. Obviously, he plays that attacking role that gives him really good goal assist involvement upside. But really, when you're talking about Leicester, it's all Maddison in terms of DFS production. Harvey Barnes had a great game last time, but he's going to be more goal assist dependent. Same with Vardy. And then Tielemans, if Maddison's on, doesn't get set pieces, so you really can't play him. But that's about it from that game. It's Tavernier, Maddison, nobody else really in play. So that's going to do it. Just under 11 minutes here. Probably 10 minutes of actual analysis when you take out the gas story. But do appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, shoot them in the chat here. All the notifications on my phone, so I'll try my best to answer what I can. Thank you all for watching. Good luck on Saturday. With that, I'll say, see you.